Hi there. If you ever thought about quitting coffee or maybe trying to at least cut it down for a little bit, then this is for you. If you started thinking about it, maybe you're noticing what it's doing to your body, and maybe you're also becoming aware of, some of the information that it's depleting your minerals and vitamins and so on and so forth in your system. And so I just want to kind of tie it back to me. And so for me, I've been drinking coffee since I was 18 or so. And I have a very vivid memory of forcing myself into drinking coffee because that was what society was sort of expecting at a certain age, that you would be drinking coffee. But anyway, and maybe it was similar for you, or maybe you just picked up the habit out of, just being in this world, right? Like, honestly, it's like at some point, it's like somebody's like, would you like a cup of coffee? And you're like, okay, fine. And it's not that it's, it tastes good. It's great in a lot of ways, but it also, sometimes it can be like, maybe I don't want this anymore. And I've many times during my life, I've sort of thought to myself, okay, what if I, cut down my coffee intake? Because what happens is you have a little bit, you have 1 cup a day, and then you have 2, and then you have 3, and then you have 4, and before you know it, it's like the first thing you're drinking in the morning and the last thing at night, and you're just constantly in this sort of caffeinated state. Especially if you're working a lot, stressed, then you tend to just drink more and more and more. Yeah, so that's what happened to me. I would be like, spike up, and then I'm like, oh my God, I gotta, and so I would either try to cut it down, or I would, not drink at all for, let's say, 3 months or something like that. But anyway, so now what I want to give to you is that recently, so it's like say 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I started just really tuning into my body and feeling what was actually happening when I was drinking my coffee. So, I would maybe wake up and drink a coffee in the morning, and then you would get this enormous surge of energy, right? You're like, okay, let's do this. I got all this things to do, and I'm gonna do this. Or the opposite would happen. Sometimes I would be almost feeling more sluggish after I had my first cup of coffee, and then I would have to have one more, right? So I would have like 2 in the morning, and then maybe 1 more, right? And then I would have lunch, and then I would have to have a cup of coffee after lunch, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to make it through the afternoon. And then around 2:30 or so would be like the worst part of my day, where I would totally dip and be like, oh my God, I have no energy, I can't, and then and then later on at night feel a little bit better and so on. But what I also sensed into is how it's affecting me. So what I noticed is it really starts to affect my nervous system. So it's kind of like this fight or flight situation where your entire system just gets activated and you're like constantly on the go. So even when you're feeling sluggish, your nerves are still activated, and you're still feeling, I would say I felt like anxiety, worry, tension in my body, and I was constantly feeling like this low grade kind of stressful soup of, and when I started really tuning into it and noticing that, oh, this is how it's affecting me. I'm constantly a little bit more alert. I can't really reach my stillness. I can't really reach the center of me, like really where I want to be, where I want to experience life. And that's when it kicked into me, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's preventing me from, number one, having an energy level throughout the day that's kind of consistent, where it's like, oh, okay, I wake up, I might be a little tired. We normally are, unless we wake up and we're like, yoo-hoo, yeah. And then slowly, my energy increases, and then I feel like I kind of have energy throughout the whole day now. I feel very, very stable. So I stopped drinking coffee about 4 months ago, and it was like huge for me. I was like, wow, this is like, I'm really feeling like myself again. Like I really felt like this is how I'm supposed to feel. And so then, and as it progresses, you start to feel like, oh wow, this is really amazing. I can tune into myself. I can be calm. I can be relaxed. I can be creative. I can be, spontaneous. I can be just in stillness. And it's just me. It's not like I'm not fighting against this sort of anxiety, worry, background noise that's constantly happening when I'm constantly feeding my nervous system with caffeine. Yeah? And so what I realized is, okay, I might have to change it to a few other things, because I want something warm to drink. Otherwise, I'm going to drop back into caffeine immediately. I'm sure the same is for you. If you try to get off caffeine for a while, you might want to drink some tea, or I did some cacao. I've done some chai, things like that, just to kind of, and I know some of those things matcha has also caffeine in it, but it's not the same way. So I'm really sensing into when I'm drinking chai or matcha or anything like that, and I'm noticing, does this affect me the same way? And it doesn't. So that more gives you a more constant energy flow through for a long time, and you don't feel like you have to go back and have a chai, or you don't feel like you have to go back and have a matcha, because it doesn't have the same effect on your system. It actually just kind of more enhances your system in a much more subtle and compassionate way, I would say. It's very, and so what I do now instead is, so I tend to sometimes get headaches, and when I stop drinking coffee, I almost never get them now. And if I do get them, I use coffee as medicine. So if I get a headache, I have a cup of coffee, and lo and behold, boom, it's gone, right? And then I continue on with all of my other, I drink a lot of water and all this stuff. But the kicking of the caffeine habit was huge for me, because it cut down my headache, intervals by, I don't know, 95%. I mean, I really, really never have headaches. I used to get them all the time in the afternoons, in the mornings, whatever. But I also think it comes from then regulating your nervous system and allowing it to do what it needs to do without the introduction of caffeine from coffee. So if you're feeling drawn to this, I would very highly recommend at least trying it. You don't have to completely cut it. Maybe you cut down and see what happens in your body. How do you feel like? What happens if you just drink 1 cup a day, for example? If you start with that. What happens if you take a few days and drink none, and then you start to say, oh, okay, wow, this is a different feeling in my body. This is how I'm feeling. And really tune into it. Like, how is it affecting you at like your deepest level, your inside? How is it affecting your ability to connect to yourself? How is it affecting your ability to connect to your heart? How is it affecting your general kind of emotional sensations throughout the day, your general thought patterns, because your thought become more activated also. So, how does it allow you to slow down, tune in, be you? Okay. If this was helpful, you can subscribe to my video channel, and lots of love. Namaste.